Good morning, Sean, and happy Wednesday. And good morning to everyone else, especially Schwam. Schwam, you get your very own shout out for once again reminding me that I am no John Green. I want to talk a little bit today about a class that I'm taking as part of my sabbatical. It's called Graphic Novels in the Classroom, and it's been really interesting. And one of the things that we've been focusing on is the superhero. Why the superhero is so iconic, and why it's one of those icons that have stuck around for years and years and years, despite the changing tastes over time. I mean, really, since the introduction of Superman in 1938 by Siegel and Schuster, followed by Batman in 1939 by Kane and Finger, superheroes have dominated the pages of comic books. I mean, those two characters alone are still extremely popular. In fact, one of the most highly anticipated movies of 2016 is Superman vs. Batman. And of course, Christopher Nolan just had a successful run with his Batman reboot, The Dark Knight trilogy. Speaking of movies, if you look at some of the top grossing films of all time, you're going to see a lot of superhero names up there. The Avengers, Iron Man, Batman, Spider-Man. Of course, superheroes aren't just confined to the pages of comic books. I mean, think about what a superhero is. Think about the characteristics of superheroes. Strange and complex origin stories. They have dual identities, oftentimes one of them secrets. They have very strong moral codes, a strong sense of right and wrong. They have superhuman powers, and oftentimes their life is filled with tragedy and death and adventure. Kind of sounds like the Jesus, or Moses, or Buddha, or many other religious figures. So what's the deal with superheroes? So first, I really like the ideas of Joseph Campbell, who was kind of an expert in mythology. Campbell relied a lot on Carl Jung's ideas of the collective unconscious and archetypes. Jung posited that the collective unconscious is this reservoir within each of us where is gathered the residue of all human experience, but on a very symbolic, emotional, instinctual, and non-rational level. And from the collective unconscious comes these things called archetypes. Now, archetypes can be seen as blueprints. They're the original model upon which new things are built. Joseph Campbell, one of those archetypes is called the monomyth, otherwise known as the hero's journey. Interesting about this is that Campbell says that the hero's journey is never really about the stated object of the quest, the Holy Grail or the Lost Ark, but it's always about self-discovery. It makes these stories so endlessly and universally fascinating is that we see ourselves in these heroes, that through their worldly adventures we see projected our own inner journeys and inner seeking. I don't know about you, but I think it takes a hell of a lot of courage to look inside, to plumb our deepest, darkest depths, to admit, confront, and try to overcome our weaknesses and flaws in order to become more fully realized individuals. I believe another reason for the popularity of superheroes has to do with the philosophy of nihilism. Nihilism, of course, is the happy-go-lucky philosophy that life has no meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value, and that there is no inherent morality. The other day I was listening to an episode of Radiolab which was exploring the presence and popularity of nihilism in pop culture. Think Dada, punk rock, death metal, True Detective. Let's throw Taylor Swift on that list too. One of the hypotheses of the show was to say that nihilism is not present in our pop culture to celebrate it, to say how cool it is, but to show I acknowledge it, but I'm not afraid of it, and I can push past it. Which makes sense because if you truly believed that everything was meaningless and valueless, why would you spend your time making art? Back to superheroes, if you think about it, they're usually faced with one of two scenarios. So in the first scenario, chaos is threatening the world order, and the superhero's job is to ride in and defend the order and defeat the chaos. Think Batman against the Joker in Nolan's The Dark Knight movie. Second scenario, the superhero is faced with an established order that has become defective, dangerous, and malignant and must be torn down, and therefore chaos becomes his friend. So think Moore's V for Vendetta. So both these scenarios seem to accept the nihilistic assertion that the world lacks intrinsic structure or moralistic values, and that both of these things are creations of mankind. Instead of ennui, passivity, and selfishness, superheroes react with conviction and action and selflessness. Perhaps the superhero suggests that in a world devoid of inherent meaning and value, you don't just throw up your hands or curl into a ball or do whatever the hell you want. But that in such a world, mankind is endowed with, to steal a line from Stan Lee, great power and great responsibility to create value and meaning in order for itself. Perhaps the superhero genre is so popular because while it accepts the possibility of a nihilistic universe, it completely rejects its assertion that our lives don't matter. So anyway, I've been thinking about all this because I just finished reading for class Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, in which a 55-year-old Bruce Wayne who took a hiatus from being Batman for a while comes out of retirement when Gotham is essentially faced with an insurgency of chaos and also an entrenched, decrepit, ineffective political system. So much going on in this book. I'm not sure if it's life-changing, but certainly thought-provoking, so I highly recommend it. Anyway, I have a lot more schoolwork to do, so that's it for me for this week. So, until next time, peace out!